Welcome, everybody. Today, we're having our 100th Stroke Buddy Stroke Survivor Support Group meeting. We do this every Tuesday, and we try and bring you some recovery information, science, and sometimes an inspiring story like we have today, because our guest today is Shelby Jensen, and Shelby is a Paralympian fencer. She took the lemons that life dealt her and made lemonade out of them. So welcome, Shelby. I'd like to ask you to just talk a little bit about your stroke and growing up with a stroke and the different sports you tried and how you got to para fencing and what you love about it. There's a big assignment.
Perfect. I'll try and do my best.
Oh, you'll be fine.
Hi. So my name's Shelby, as Ralph said. I am a 15-year stroke survivor. I had my stroke when I was 7, and it paralyzed my right side. I don't know what deficits you guys have, but paralysis is the most common. It was caused by a brain aneurysm, and so when the doctors went in when I was 7 to do brain surgery, they clipped off the aneurysm, and it caused me to have another stroke, which resulted in right side hemiparesis. After that, I've always been like a super active, like little kid. My whole family was like outdoors and everything. Um, and so afterwards, they put me into the Special Olympics for like basketball, biking, everything, just to be around people like me, so I would get more comfortable in my own skin. Because that's a huge thing when it comes to recovery, and like something happened to you, and you don't know how to process it, you don't know what to do. Um, so they put me into the Special Olympics, which are for more the cognitively disabled. But they just wanted me to be around people with disabilities. And then eventually, a couple years later, when I was like 10 or 11, I became more of a mentor to the participants then, a participant myself. Um, so then they put me into adaptive sports for the physically disabled. And I tried every sport under the sun, like wheelchair racing, wheelchair rugby, basketball, wheelchair pickleball, which I didn't know there was a thing, wheelchair tennis, track and field, archery, which I loved. I almost went in that. I almost like went in archery instead of fencing. Um, so then when I was about 15, my mom didn't want me staying home all summer, binge watching Netflix. So she uh she emailed the director of the adaptive sports that I did it with, and she's like, "Hey, is there any volunteering opportunities?" And there was. Um it was for a wheelchair sports camp, which I absolutely loved. I volunteered there like 3 years in a row, and actually worked there for 6 years, worked with the organization that I started doing adaptive sports with for 6 years before I moved out to Colorado. Um, so it's kind of funny because the my manager, Bill, um, he ran the demonstration of wheelchair fencing, and he saw I had a disability. And at this wheelchair sports camp, I'm like, I can't do it. I'm a volunteer and whatnot. And so he's like, just sit down and try it. And I did, and absolutely fell in love with it. I mean, like, I'm living out my childhood dream. I get to play with swords. Um, And so 7 months later, I went to my first nationals, got two silver and one bronze. And then 3 years after that, I went to the Paralympics. And it's been insane ever since. Um, so I I personally love the wheelchair fencing community because we're such like we're a niche community. Not a lot of people do fencing. Um, but it's just like everybody knows everybody. So it feels a lot more homey. It feels like Stroke Buddies does. And like it's just a home where you can go. Um, the reason I like it so much, I joke with people and tell them I like to hit people with metal sticks and not get yelled at. But honestly, like I do love that. I do love that. I love getting like my stress and anxiety and like anger out on other people and in a healthy way. But I really, really like the mental aspect of fencing. They call it active chess. So you can be as buff as a bodybuilder, but you have to have the mental capacity to play active chess is basically the way we tell it. It's predicting your opponent's moves, two steps of what it actually is. Um, the and just to give you an idea of how fast we go, the tip of a blade, the tip of a saber blade, which is what I do. I do all three. There's three specific weapons. I do all three. But my favorite is saber. Um, and in saber, it's much, much quicker, much, much like boom, 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 boom. The tip of a saber blade is actually faster than a bullet or a rubber bullet. And that's just amazing to like know that we can move that fast. We can, despite what is going on with us. So I just, I love it. And I tried to make Paris 2 years before the Paralympics vacation starts and I fly all over the world. Um, I unfortunately didn't make it. I was 2 points behind my other opponent, my teammate, actually. Me and her fenced against each other, and she beat me 14-15. And so, yeah, I mean, like it's a little bittersweet. I'm glad she gets to go. This is her first games, but it's a little bittersweet for me just because, it would have been my second games and I was so excited and stuff. But yeah, yeah, happy for the team that's going.
Fencing isn't something I'm not a fencer, so hopefully I'm not talking out of school here, but fencing is one of those sports that it seems like you don't age out of like swimming and track so much. I think about fencing and equestrian events and certain things where you actually see people in their cross country skiing. You see people sometimes, well into their 40s or 50s still competing. So 2024 isn't the last hurrah.
Yes,
You'll be back.
absolutely.
You'll be back.
Yes. We actually have a vet 80s in USA fencing at nationals. And it's so funny to see them fence. They're just walking up and down the strip. So able-bodied fencers have to walk up and down. Imagine a sidewalk. So they
Hmm.
have to walk up and down and try and hit each other. Um, but it's just it's the seeing them fence, seeing them do what they love to do, seeing the smiles on their faces after is just like so heartwarming. And then the oldest para fencer that we've had actually went with us to Tokyo the last games. Um her name was Terry Hayes. She retired She was 67, 68 years old. And so, yeah, yeah.
There you go. You got 35, 40 years in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I got that long. Maybe another games or two, and I'm kaput. I want to do something else.
Well, yeah, you might choose to do something else. I think, based on your past performance, you've got it in you if you want to do it. I mean, it's just a matter of your choice. Yeah, it
Mhm.
seems like fencing a lot like chess game. You mentioned, two moves ahead, which is something you try and do in chess. So that seems challenging for somebody who hasn't had a stroke. I assume you didn't have a lot of cognitive issues. However, all of us who have strokes deal with like getting overwhelmed. Like I didn't have any real cognitive issues, except sometimes people could overload me. I imagine that trying to figure that out is a real challenge, maybe even more of a challenge if you have suffered a stroke. Did you find that to be true, and do you find it was good for you?
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely loved it. So not only for like my mental health, my mental capability, but also physically. Um, it has helped me with spasticity. Um, because on my chair, I have my chair over there. On my chair, there's I have a strap because I can't hold on to the grab bar. Here, let me show you if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
So, um, so this is my fencing, my competition chair. This is what I take everywhere. Okay, so right here, so I would normally sit in this, and it's almost got like a side guard on one side and then not on the other. So this is the way I would lunge, and then um, for my hand. I've actually got a strap that straps around my wrist so I can lunge and pull back because I can't grab onto the grab bar. So it's helped me with spasticity and like stretching while I'm lunging. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, pun right there. And so I I love it. I love it. So it's I've my parents say I was really in my shell. I was really like just like shy, timid um before I found fencing. And ever since I found fencing, they've seen me like flourish. So,
That's good.
yeah.
I think as stroke survivors, it's really important to either reconnect with things that we used to love to do or find new things. I don't think it's not very easy to move on unless you're passionate about things and you have some hope. And when you're passionate about things, that typically gives you hope for the future. Um, so
Exactly.
um, So spasticity is kind of interesting because sometimes with a lot of people it's velocity based. So it's interesting that, doing things really quick has helped with your spasticity. Not everybody, I didn't experience that. I had
Oh,
just regular old stiffness, tightness. I didn't have any velocity based. Of course, you're
yeah.
also fencing with your left hand, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. No, so when I do
Uh,
this, I can't like go really quick. I do that and then can relax, and that's my spasticity. Um, and so I've noticed a difference. My parents, my OT has noticed a difference with before I started fencing and after. And he's like I couldn't go fast more than past like this. And then I would have to relax and like actually like tell it to like fully extend. But now it's even just a little bit, it's a little bit better. Um, but we're going so fast, I don't even notice it. And of course it stays like kind of like in a bend when I'm lunging and stuff because of the spasticity, but it's gotten a lot better since I've been fencing. So
You were saying you couldn't hold on to some kind of a bar?
yeah, so the bar, so when we lunge to the side. So um yeah, amputees and people who don't have uh right not right hand like
Second hand, right?
yeah, yeah, have a second hand. Um hold on to the grab bar. The grab bar is what the strap is hooked to. So yeah.
I have the exact same problem when lunging from the chairs. Is there a name for a certain strap?
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah,
strap.
no. So you can really get any strap. Um, the strap that goes around my wrist, I've actually had to replace 3 times this year because it gets worn out. But it's a weightlifting strap.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
yeah. So my dad Jimmy rigged it to where like it's used with buckles to hold it in place and then glue around a PVC pipe big enough to slide up and down the grab bar.
Could
So
you send me pictures of that, please?
yeah, definitely. A lot of fencers have actually like actually stolen this idea and used it on their chair. So yeah, yeah, for sure. I'll
Thank
happily
you.
send pictures. So
Maybe your dad should make them.
yeah, no, well, he's made a Jedi chair. So his name's Jed. And so Jedi, like sword fighting, like
Yeah.
lightsabers and stuff. So it's called the Jedi chair. It's I have one here, but it's put away. Um, and it's a stationary chair. We call it the practice chair, the coach's chair, because anybody can sit down in it and fence. I fence able-bodied out of my chair. Um, my fencing chair goes with me everywhere. It goes with me to Salt Lake. But um, they've actually, I fence for a foundation, Utah Fencing Foundation, that pays my way to everything
Uh,
as sponsor. And they've actually, my dad, um, knows the guy who runs it. His name's Bill, the one who found me, and they've actually put together their heads and manufactured 30, and they just went out to clubs all across the country.
huh.
So, yeah, for more accessible fencing, not everyone can spend $3,000 to $4,000 on a fencing chair. Um, so
Right.
yeah.
But that's great that they're doing that and sponsoring you. I was going to ask you how you manage it because every time I look and see you're in Brazil, competing or various places, and I wondered how you managed to do that. You said you fence able-bodied people. Do they get
Yeah,
in a do they get in a chair or
yes. So they sit in the Jedi chair. Um,
ah
Yeah. Yeah. So they sit in a Jedi chair. The Jedi chair is just like it's actually based off of this chair. Um, and the Jedi chair is just a stationary chair that doesn't have wheels, doesn't roll, doesn't anything. It has little wheels on the side so you can roll it like to take it somewhere and stuff. But it's ambidextrous, so it can be changed to right or left hand. But it's basically like a practice chair. So, yeah.
well, again, I hopefully I'm not going to show my stupidity here, but it looked like the two chairs go on some kind of a real low platform, and
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are they strapped down in place?
Mhm.
Yes. Are,
If
are,
you look at, if you look,
go ahead.
sorry,
No.
if you look up wheelchair fencing, Ginger, sorry, that's my dog. She's right behind me. Um, if you look up wheelchair fencing online, you'll be able to see like videos of about and based on how hard we lunge, they have to be strapped in because we make so there's we call them frames. They're sitting on little platforms, and so when we with the bar in the middle, so they don't like move forward and back. So, um, the distance also is based on whichever fencer's fencing and stuff. Um, how far away we sit and how close we sit. But the men, the men fencing, if you look at their videos, they actually like move the platform, move the frame, like with their body and lunging. You wouldn't think that's like possible, but it's amazing. It's amazing. So
I was asking because I saw a picture where it looked
Mhm.
like they were measuring off the distance.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing is we have in the fencing after stroke group, which by the way, anybody watching this in YouTube land, we have a fencing after stroke group if you want to get in, if you're involved in fencing or interested, and I'll put the link in the description underneath this. And there's a picture of you that you sent me, Shelby, and
Yeah.
you're maybe the back of your thighs are touching the chair. That's about it. You got
Yeah, so
you got your whole seat out of the chair in a big lunge. So it doesn't surprise me that men who weigh a little bit more and maybe are could be stronger than some women can move the platform around.
yeah,
Surprised they haven't figured out to bolt it down yet, or maybe they like it that way. Maybe that's part of the deal.
I don't know. Like all I know is I roll in there and fence. So I don't know the specifics, like if they plan on bolting it down or um just leaving it be. So
We get platforms on loan, but it doesn't seem that it's possible to actually bolt them down. But I know that these are very heavy and they get moved place to place for competition because platforms cost 6,000 UK to buy.
oh
So
wow.
they're
Which
very
ones are you
inaccessible.
looking at?
We had
The
to borrow platforms from a gym in Wales who weren't using theirs for the time.
oh okay. Yeah, yeah.
So we don't actually own our full equipment yet. We're still trying to work on getting chairs as well,
Okay.
but they're
We actually,
severely expensive. Sorry, Victoria.
no, it's okay.
On you go, you
Sorry.
speak.
We actually, at my club, so I've been fencing for 2.5 years then. For 2.5 years, I was the only wheelchair fencer. However, last week we've had someone else come in who's very interested in what he is going to work with us and work with me now. And that's the only thing. We've got one frame, so I use one side of the frame, and the other side of the frame is tucked in under, like somewhere in the south. It's very rusty, and my coach and I were just talking about like how do we get that equipment and how do we get another chair for him, because like you said, they're very expensive.
Yeah, so I I can have my dad or my manager send me the plans for the um Jedi chair, and then I can email it to Gary or you, and it just shows the measurements and shows like what thickness the pipe needs to be. But we've had
And
success with sharing our plans with anyone and them welding it themselves if they don't want to pay like $500 to $600 for one of our chairs. Five to
the
six
chair,
hundred, yeah.
yeah, the chair that I have now was actually a chair that my dad made completely for me from like scratch. It
Oh,
took
wow.
him like, but he did it.
Yeah, so if you have a welder or any welder, like if you look it up online, if you take the plans to them, I bet they'll do it like at a discount because it's for wheelchair. It's for a wheelchair sport and it's for like, but yeah, I can have my dad send me the plans and I'll email it to one of you guys if you want. So,
Okay.
Please do.
yeah.
Sounds like this is a family affair.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'm curious about, and that's when you fence an able-bodied person who's in a chair, how do they do? Because all of a sudden, they're used to standing up and moving back and forth,
Mhm.
and now all of a sudden they're forced into your world um for a moment or whatever period of time you fence.
Yeah.
How do they do? Do they adapt well to it? Do you enjoy fencing with able-bodied people, or is it fairly even competition?
So my coach is able-bodied, of course. She's a three-time world champion, and she insists on standing up because she's small. She's like 4'5", 4'3".
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, but she's like a world champion. She's like yeah, like recent too. Like she got a gold, I think, in vet world champs this year, like 3, 4 gold. Um, but I love her. Her name is Julie Seal. And she hates sitting down. She insists on standing up, but um there's a there's a certain like uh level, like everybody has to be on the same playing field. So when she's standing up, her blade is higher than mine because sitting down, you're sitting down. Standing up, you're standing up. So she can, but I make her sit down, make her stand up. But for the other fencers that sit down with me, for fencers that haven't sat down in a wheelchair before, it's funny to see their feet like start like bouncing because they want to get up, they want to like walk while they're fencing, but they can't. They can't. And so they have to like stay in the chair. They have to like use everything they have to stay in the chair and fence. It's so funny to watch. But the fencers that have been fencing me for like a year or two in a chair, no problem. So it's just getting used to it. Like my coach, she fences in a chair sometimes and she fences me standing up sometimes while I'm in the chair. And it's just whatever the person wants, but I like them when they sit down in the chair and fence me. So it's just so funny to see the like because my old coach Brandon Smith, he lives in San Francisco right now. He actually fenced sitting down for so long. He didn't like practice any able-bodied standing that his we call it footwork. The able-bodied call it footwork. His footwork and his blade work were so like uncoordinated. We're so uncoordinated. He could do footwork or he could do blade work, but he couldn't do both at the same time. Like when he went before he coached me and my teammate. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. So
Must be tough practicing with your coach because she's a world champion. It's kind of like playing my dad at chess. I only beat him one time when I was 16.
I beat her all the time. So
Oh,
it's
good. That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Then, well, the reason I'm saying it's cool, not so much as you beat her, but because you're evenly matched. And when you're evenly
Yeah.
matched, you learn. I've always found when you're evenly matched in any sport, anything, mental activities, whatever, you get a lot more out of it because you're on the same level.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 14, 15, 14, 15. It would be different. It was like 215, you know. I would ask for a new coach then, but it's like 14, 15, 14, 15. And so, yeah, yeah, I love her and stuff. So I'm actually moving back to Utah next month to because my husband is going to Korea for a year on deployment to Korea. So yeah.
How did you meet him? Just curious.
So I was actually in Colorado at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center for 2 months at the beginning of 2020 before the world shut down. And I met him on a dating app and we went out and yeah, that was, I mean, like, there isn't much to tell. Um, we, I was here in December of 2019, then I was swiping because I knew I would be coming back in 2020, so I wanted to meet some people when I was out here, and he was one of the people, and we talked for a month until I got out here in January of 2020, and yeah.
Well, I mean, it might not be much to tell, but from what I can tell, he's pretty supportive.
Very supportive. Very supportive. He loves telling people about me. He, you know,
He's
says,
proud of you.
uh-huh, yeah, yeah, this
We're
is
all,
my
we're all,
wife.
we're all proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. His coworkers say, like, when I meet his coworkers say, Jared talks about you all the time. I'm like, great. That's just great. And I get embarrassed about that, but I know he's proud of me. I know he's like, this is my wife, and yeah. Yeah.
So aren't we all looking for somebody in life who thinks we're special?
Yeah.
I think so. Anyway,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah.
what kind of plans you got for the you said you might not stick with it 40 years. What kind of plans have you got for a more short-term future, next 5 years or whatever? They always say, what do you imagine yourself doing in 5 or 10 years when you're in a job interview or whatever? I'm not trying to do that to you. I'm just curious what your thinking is going forward.
So, my plans in the next I'm gonna say 5 to 10 years. I'm gonna say 5 to 10 years. So, go to LA, go to Brisbane, 2032, and then afterwards, after Brisbane, possibly start up my own club in the Springs because there's no clubs here. Um, and so started my own club, have my kids, force my kids to fence, and the whole generational. um,
I'm
my
laughing at forcing them to fence.
yeah, yeah. My husband's been in the army for about 8 years, so it'll be 2 years before he gets out, and just yeah, just. I
So
mean, like, I haven't thought that far ahead, Ralph. You're making me like
no.
think.
I'm not trying to do a job interview or whatever. The reason I'm asking that is I think it's important to have dreams.
Mhm.
If you don't dream and plan and be passionate about things and have hope for the future, it's hard to move on. I assume you feel it's important to have dreams.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like, I never knew Paralympic fencing was a thing, or wheelchair fencing was a thing until like I actually saw it with my own eyes. I knew like wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, all the common sports or swimming was a thing. And like I did it, but like I I didn't really know that fencing was a thing, and so um and I didn't really have any dreams growing up. I just did stuff to do stuff, like yeah, I had a dream of going to college and becoming a vet when I was younger, but that's not feasible anymore. But I just went with how life rolled, you know. I didn't really have any long-term goals growing up, but I do now. But like growing up, it was just like, okay, you want me to do this? Okay, I'll do it. And so I just really.
I think that's true of a lot of kids. They just go with the flow until you get to high school and they start telling you, well, what are you going to do with your life? And you're forced to think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't really know the Paralympics were a thing. I knew the Olympics were a thing, but I didn't know the Paralympics were a thing. I'm just like, I'll just do this sport to do it. And then I found fencing and we can see where that went. So, yeah.
Shelby, I was
Yeah.
curious. On your affected stroke side, um, do you have any loss of sensation, tactility on your affected side?
A little bit, like 5 to 10%.
Okay.
I really, really don't notice it. In fact, like when I'm clumsy. I do all the cooking in my house. When I cook on the stove, I accidentally put like wasn't watching and touched my right hand to the pot, and it stung worse than it would if I touched it with my left hand. So it's funny because my nerves don't seem, but like I've no if I really focus, I notice I've lost sensation on that side. So yeah. Yeah.
When
Sometimes
you talk about cooking, I have to be careful when I'm cooking because I feel things the same, but I have a like delayed reaction. So I can put my hand on something hot and it takes a second or two before I realize it's hot. And
Uh-huh.
and you got to be careful because you can get burned in that time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just it I mean like sometimes my nerves are more sensitive, sometimes they aren't. And so it just goes with the day. I noticed that in the winter time they're more sensitive and my muscles seize up in the cold. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if any of you experience that, but yeah, my muscles seize up in the cold, which is a pain in the butt because it's just my right side and I'm just like waddling down the driveway trying to get to my car. And so, yeah.
Maybe Utah will be better for that than Colorado. So, I mean, there are mountains in Utah as well, but
Yeah, yeah. They get as much snow there as we do here, so.
yeah, if you're up in the north. Um, Kevin, I know you don't feel your foot much. Is your arm the same? You don't have much sensation at
Oh,
all?
my whole right side down to the inside of my mouth, I can feel half
Yeah,
of it normal and the other half not. So,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, it's half and half, literally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've got paresthesia in my face and my hand, but not my arm and not my leg. It just,
Yeah.
feels funny. My hand feels like I've been sitting on it for an hour. You ever sit on your hand and it's like goes to sleep and it's numb, and it feels raw and it feels fat.
Mhm.
It's hypersensitive and yet it's not sensitive all at the same time. They
S-
try and explain this to somebody who hasn't had a stroke and they like look at you like, huh? But stroke people usually get it because they've got something similar going on.
Yeah, I had a foot drop surgery about after Tokyo, so in 2021, just right after. And
Where the foot drop,
my,
did you have the tendon transfer surgery? I did too.
nice, nice. Yeah, I sometimes regret it because I can't run anymore.
Yeah.
And I love it because I don't trip as much. But it's funny because over my scars on the top of my foot, if I touch the top of my foot over the scars, I can feel it down in my toes. Like it's a weird feeling. It like tickles. And it just is, yeah, I avoid touching because that feeling, and it it irks me. It's just so weird because I don't have feeling on the top of my foot anymore. I should have said that. Sorry. But I have feeling everywhere else. But I don't have as much feeling on the top of my foot, but I am really, really sensitive. My toes are really, really sensitive. And it's after the foot drop surgery, I accumulated those new symptoms, and they're just a part of my life now. And it when I stub my toe on my right side, you'll hear me scream, and I shouldn't scream, but yeah. So
So your toes are more sensitive and your
Mhm.
top of your foot's numb. I
Yeah.
always wonder whenever they do operations, how they connect back all those little capillaries and nerves and everything, you know?
hmm
Sounds
hmm
like maybe they didn't get all the nerves
I
connected.
don't I don't yeah, I don't really care because it's my foot and I don't pay attention to it, so yeah.
Right. Well, that's probably smart.
Yeah.
You know, you got to play the hand you're dealt. So you could let it irritate you, and that would irritate you and possibly even hold you back. So
hmm
yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I don't do anything foolish, but I try not to give in to the stroke, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we tried Botox in this leg and then casting it before um to help with the foot drop and OTPT, um and to help with the tightness of my Achilles and stuff. Before they actually suggested foot drop surgery. When I was a child, they did that for about 9 months to a year, and it worked a little bit, but it didn't work as fast as they were thinking. So it's yeah, yeah. Yep.
Can I ask some questions about your training?
Yeah, of course.
So in preparation for any competition or event, so what is your schedule like? How much time is as a Paralympian getting into the gym?
So before competition, I usually stop training just to give my body some downtime to recover before I start competition about a week or 5 days. The I've gone from competition to competition before, and that was painful. Um in the US, then to Brazil, then to the US again, and that was painful. Um, but I usually give myself about 5 days to a week. Um, and then I usually like prior prior to that week, I usually give myself it so I do the wind down method where I slowly like take it easy and then let my body recover for the competition. Um but during like the height of my training, I usually spend around 20 to 30 hours in the gym, and that's including like working out, not working out in the chair, not fencing. That's
So that
including working out. So
is that a month for a week?
Um, so I usually give myself a week before, and then prior to that week of downtime before the competition, I usually am in the gym 20 to 30 hours. So like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kinds of things do you do in the gym? I mean, other than fencing to help, uh, anybody who trains, does certain things in the gym to enhance muscles and coordination, whatever that they want for their sport.
So I generally do a lot of upper body, because that's what I'm using. Um, and then I do some lower body just to keep it in check, keep it in shape, and then um, uh, sport specific exercises is like taking a resistance band, tying it behind me. You've probably done this, and then just going like this. That's the best exercise. I love that exercise, but it kills my arm. Just having some resistance behind it, because when the blade's coming at you, if you catch the blade and then like if you block it and then push, you can easily catch their bell guard, and there's resistance there. And um also uh I just practice random lunging movements, and with actually I've started doing so there's a ball that goes around your head, like there's a headband and then there's a string and then a ball, and I've actually started boxing with it to help my like hand-eye coordination, because I'm going to need glasses in the near future, and my hand-eye coordination is getting uh, really bad. And so I use that as hand-eye coordination. And then another thing, a sport specific, I do. Um, I haven't done these exercises since before Brazil. Oh my gosh. Um, I also just do a lot of cardio because endurance and everything. Um, do a lot of like just retreats, lunges, retreats, lunges, retreats, lunges for however long I can go. And then when I've exhausted or gassed myself out, I take a 5-minute break and then go again, and then do that 3 times. And I do that at the end of my training session, so that way I'm just like so tired I can't function. So, and then I go home, eat, and then go to bed. So yeah. Yeah.
How long does a match last? And do you get is it aerobic? Do you get out of breath?
Sometimes if the bouts, we call it,
Okay,
if the
sorry.
bouts go really, really long, I've actually gotten gassed, like gassed, exhausted. I call it gassed because it's easier. Because you're one of the USA's favorite terms is, are you out of gas? Meaning, are you out of energy? Are you out of, yeah. So, um, or give it more gas or something. So, yeah. They like to yell that at us. And but anyways, I'm getting off topic. Sorry.
No,
So uh I stroke brain. What were we talking about? I'm so sorry.
just asking how
Oh,
aerobic it was
matches.
and how
So
long a bout lasts.
yeah, so it goes. So there's the pull bout, which goes for 3 minutes if you're doing foil or epee, and then in saber it doesn't matter. Um, in foil or epee, you go for 3 minutes to score 5 points, and then that decides where you sit on the bracket, or the bracket, just who you fence against. And then whoever wins that bout goes on to the next, and those are 15-point bouts. There's 3 periods of 3 points. I'm not 3 points, 3 periods of 3 minutes. And so, and then there's also the passivity rule, where if you don't score a point in a minute, in that minute from beginning to end, it goes on to the next period. And then if you guys are the same score at when the timer is up for all 3 periods, you go into US is known as overtime or priority. And whoever scores a point based on that is wins. So,
Sudden death.
yep, sudden death.
Almost literally,
Uh-huh.
except the swords are
Yeah,
tipped
yeah.
swords.
Yeah.
So, you took something that some people could look at as, unfortunate circumstance. Some people unfortunately let stroke rule them instead of trying to fight back. What do you say to somebody out there who's thinking about something that they'd like to do? How would you encourage them? What has it done for you to find fencing as a person and as a stroke survivor? And what would you say to somebody else about why they should get involved in something that they love to do?
It's my two favorite sayings or just quotes they're really, really cliche. Just a forewarning. Would be just like don't give up and do it. Do it. If you're thinking about it, do it. Because like it can either be the best thing or it can be the worst thing. Or it can be somewhere in the middle, But if it's the worst thing, then stop doing it.
Yeah, find something else.
Yeah. If it's the best thing or the middle, keep on doing it, like do it. My parents threw me into sports. I love sports and whatnot, so I grew up on sports. But I did it just to do it. And some sports I absolutely hated and some sports I loved, and wheelchair fencing was one of them. And I felt like that was my niche. I felt like that was my sport. So yeah. Yeah.
Do you participate in any other sports? I don't mean like competitively, but do you enjoy any other sports?
Rock climbing.
Rock climbing.
Rock climbing, yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't expect, but I haven't done it for a while. I haven't done it for about a year because I've been traveling and going places. But rock climbing, I love that sport. Oh, it's a full body exercise in like 2 minutes. So I
Must be
don't
challenging with your right hand.
so here's the thing. I don't use my right hand at all. If they're big enough rocks, I use my arm and just lay it on it and then pull myself up. But if they're small rocks, like the ones I've been climbing, if they're I just bounce up, like pull myself up and then reach for the next one and then like obviously like I'm falling back and then pull up and then reach for the next one and yeah.
So obviously you're climbing real rocks, not a climbing wall.
No, I'm climbing a climbing wall.
Oh, okay.
I just call them rocks because everybody on here might not know what they're called. So
Those little I don't know what they're called.
yeah, no, I honestly forgot too because it's been so long. They change them. I think they're called stones.
That
Or
I can see why they might call them so.
or they're called something similar to that. Like something, yeah. But yeah.
So when you're doing that one-handed lunging to the next and falling back, at least most climbing walls, you have a safety line.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. I also have someone down below, like belay, doing the belay part. So
Cool.
yeah.
And-
Okay. Okay. The thing I was thinking of is buckets.
Oh,
So buckets. I know it's strange, but they're called buckets, hero holds or jugs, and they've got multiple names, and so yeah.
some of them aren't very big.
Nope. Nope. So yeah. Yeah,
So,
I haven't challenged myself on the really small ones yet. I'm kind of medium to small sized right now, but yeah.
I'll use the word challenge. I was just going to say, it sounds like you enjoy a good challenge in
Mhm.
life.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Anybody got any questions for Shelby? Gary? Victoria?
Shelby,
Yes.
when you were going through the certification process,
Mm-hmm.
what was that like with the stroke? Because as I said to you a while ago when we spoke, I was quite worried that with my ability to walk around, that it might affect certification.
So they base it off your core, and they're revamping the whole certification, like classification process after Paris because there's a lot of athletes that are pretty much able-bodied, but like they have CP, but they have it very, very minimal. Like you can't tell, like unless they tell you. And and everybody's complaining that it's unfair right now, um, with all these new athletes coming in and they don't have a disability. And well, not they don't have a disability, they don't show it. It's not as visible as ours. And they're doing a wheelchair sport where they have to sit down and use their core, which they have pretty much all mobility of. Um, so they're revamping that and they're gonna, I hate to say it, but kick out some athletes and whatnot. But and so I don't know the classification process, um, like after. I'll have to wait
Yeah.
and see. But as of right now, um, uh, from my like knowing you can walk and move around and stuff and like get out of bed and function like like me or most of the people on here, um you're absolutely an A because all they did for me was because I walked in the room and sat down on my chair to do the classification process. They literally had me go, can you sit up? Okay, can you go down to the other side and sit up? And can you bend down and sit up?
Yeah,
Hey,
that simple.
you're an A.
Yeah, I just want to touch base on that because I actually have a competition coming up this weekend. But at the same competition that I did last year, this is actually the same one. I started competing at this exact competition last year. They had classified me, but they had said that they had first said that I wasn't classifiable because I have cerebral palsy, but I can walk to a degree, maybe not independently because I can't. And she just looked at me and went, you should be classified. I'm like, I think so, but you're
Yeah.
and I had so many problems with like medical documents. It's not enough, it's not enough, and it's not enough. And then they eventually I spoke to them and they eventually took me It took about an hour. She was
Oh
like,
my gosh. Yeah,
oh,
that shouldn't happen. Like obviously like if you can't walk unassisted and like it's very,
I
very minimal, you know. Um
he he literally had me stand up and she was like, "Can you balance?" I was like, "No, if my parents don't physically hold me because I have cerebral palsy and I have balance issues that are they're visible. Like I can't
yeah.
stand up and walk." She's like,
There's
"I don't know."
yeah, there's like amputees that like walk better than me. And like I said, the people that don't like their disability isn't as visible. They have to actually tell you what their disability is or classified. So I don't understand why it was so hard to classify you if your disability is extremely visible like mine. Like you can tell I have
It
something. It's yeah.
stretched me. And my parents were like, "Are you sure she's an A?" Because obviously I've only been fencing for so long and my core isn't as strong. You see.
Mhm.
And are you sure she's an A? I'm like,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
uh, so you're a little wishy-washy. You're one of the hard ones, I can tell, because you can be an A, you can fence as an A, but you can also fence as a B because your core isn't as strong, but you can kind of walk unassisted, but you know, you
yeah.
walk
That,
unassisted. So it's just whichever classifier you get, and they'll set you as an A or B internationally, and they'll actually watch you if you were really, really hard to classify while you fence in the competition to see if you belong in that category.
So it sounds like
yeah, it
a
was,
tough job.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because before I started fencing, I was doing frame running, which is another sport in athletics.
Hmm.
It's different. And they classified me completely different. There's no A, B, or C, or whatever it is. There's just two classes, and you either go in one or go in the other. But it was of an easier process because they could see that I've got cerebral palsy, and it was very what they called severe at the time,
Yeah.
and they could see that. Where within fencing, so many like documents and so many doctor appointments to get to prove that I can get classified.
Hmm.
And then my parents were like, she's an A because she's fencing. Like, I have now my core is much better. But when I first started fencing, I had no core.
Hmm.
None. And
Yeah, and
so when
that's
I got class,
why.
Seems like
wanted me
core would be
reclass.
real important.
Oh yeah, it is. Basically the whole classification system is based on how much core you have.
Ah,
And it's like it's fair, but it's not. Like because I also have this, and she also has uh correct me if
Yeah,
yeah, quadriplegic or just the one side.
but
Quad.
on my class card it says quadriplegic,
Uh-huh.
cerebral quadriplegic, and I have pretty much. So my legs are affected and my right arm is affected. Like when I lunge, because I lunge left from right because I'm left-handed. So you
Yeah.
can physically that my right arm is so much tighter when I try and lunge than my left arm would ever be.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, so I'll let's see, pictures.
sounds
Sorry.
like a tough job because, as we all know, all strokes are different. So and you you have cerebral palsy, and I don't know what other
Yeah.
amputees we mentioned. So, and there are only two categories I heard, like A and B.
So there's three,
Oh, okay.
but C's don't really well, I shouldn't say qualify. They don't qualify in the Paralympics because there's not enough of them. So they have to fence as Bs. So Cs are like really, really like quadriplegics, have no core, can't move a muscle, you know. And then Bs are basically like have limited trunk control or in a chair full time. And then Cs have like partial to full trunk control or can walk. So
A's.
not C's, A's,
Okay.
sorry. A's. So
Shelby, if I can ask you a question.
yeah.
Hi. How do you keep yourself motivated?
Good one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So I've just been recently waking up at 5 a.m. To do everything like to get stuff done before I start my day. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. But I just say to myself, if I don't do it, then who will? It's it's hard sometimes to get out of bed. I don't get, I used to, well, I shouldn't say used. I got out of bed 2 days ago at 9 o'clock. And um so it's just a matter of like coaching yourself, just telling yourself like if I don't do it, who will? That's what I tell myself. Because if I don't work out, who's gonna work out for me? Or like if I don't do my, OT for my hand and get it better, who's gonna do it for me? Or,
Sense.
like if I don't go to my doctor's appointment that I need for Botox in my arm to get it better, like who's gonna do it for me and when will I ever do it? So
Yeah.
it's just I found that's better for me. So I mean like to each their own, but yeah, I would definitely try that at least for one day, just saying to yourself like if I don't do it, who will? Because it's helped me incredibly. So yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, the answer is
Uh,
nobody.
I was curious. I've been doing Botox for several years now. How many years have you been doing Botox, and have you found, because they say, and I've seen it myself in, in
Yeah.
my affected side, that it is not necessarily as effective and gets to where, So how many years have you been doing it? And yeah,
So I've been doing it. So I did it for so 3 years after my stroke, which I was 10. So I did it for about 5 years, and then when I was 15, I stopped for a couple years, and then I started back up, stopped, started back up, stopped. Um, and then I just recently started again, about a year and a half ago, and I get it every 3 months.
same
Um,
here.
and I notice it like affecting my hand
Yep.
really, really quickly. Like it took a couple weeks, but I notice it affecting my hand really, really quickly. Like in fact, I have a dye sport injection appointment this Friday. And so it's actually my hand is actually looser than what it normally is at this point. Um, but yeah, I've never had it wear off like really, really quickly. Um,
Yeah, it always seems to be very gradual. And
yeah.
if I work my hand, my affected hand, while it's loose, it seems
Mhm.
to stay looser, even
Yeah.
even beyond the 3 months.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, so I feel it about like a day or two after, like I feel it getting looser and looser. And then about a week later I start up OT. I haven't I haven't done OT for like 4 months. but it's because I've been traveling and their appointments are weird and stuff. But I yeah, I've been doing home therapy like with those little pegs and stuff.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I notice it a lot. Like towards the end, like right now, I haven't done the peg exercise for 2 weeks because my hand is just like tight, like really tight. It won't grab, it won't loosen. Like it loosens like this, and I can move it around like this. But if it's like this, it won't budge. And so, yeah, and yeah, I I mean like once I get it this next week, I'll start doing them again and stuff. So, yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize, and the people that um, give you Botox, I don't know if they tell you this or not, but the all it does is paralyze certain muscles so that they aren't over spastic
Uh-huh.
and aren't firing all the time. And if you don't do the physical or occupational therapy while it's loose, you pretty much return to the way they are.
Yep.
I don't know. I couldn't guess what percentage, but in the posts I see, it's obvious that a lot of people don't understand that Botox doesn't really do anything on its own. I mean, it's not like a magic bullet or anything. It's not going to make your hand or your leg or your elbow or anything move. You have to. I followed a couple people in the Botox study with a video camera. And it seemed to me that what they did was they would do one person didn't do much therapy and they didn't get much better. Another person did and they got better. And you don't keep all of it, but it looked like the gains that they made during one round of Botox carried forward, not 100%, but carried forward, and then they could build on the 60 or 75% or whatever they kept, and
Yeah.
it's a process like that. And
Yeah, but you need to really temper that because I can't move my
Right.
finger. I can't even feel my fingers. So they're injecting the Botox all in my arm. I mean, I'm there for about 2 hours every time, every 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
because she has
wow.
What are
to
they?
load up the no, hold on a sec, Ralph.
Okay.
She has to load up the injectors and get it all ready, and then she's got to inject in certain, and check my level of spasticity. I mean, but I can't feel anything. I mean, I do what I can, and I've gone to OT and PT, and that's fine. But I feel like, there's like, well, if they don't do anything, they're not going to do, that's not the case for certain people, and I feel like it's like a shame for them, shaming them. Well, there's nothing you can do, but I'm stretching, I'm doing the extensions, my to get my spasticity to where it's less and less a little bit for me, and I can't all I can do is move my thumb like that much. I couldn't move it like anything when I first had the first year post stroke. And so, there's where temper that because that's that kind of like goes into a place that
Yeah.
makes certain people who are more disabled and like Shelby and how she's worked with uh since she had a stroke at 6, but look at her hand. I mean, she can't do what you can do, what a whole bunch of people, probably everybody on this call can do with her hand, but she's got stuff to do. Sorry. So
No, you're okay.
I'll get off my
Um,
soapbox, but
no, you're okay. I just make the best of it,
oh
like
yeah.
I can try and work towards what, what sorry, I can try and work towards like getting better.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long track. I might get some movement back, and I might get all movement back, or I might get no movement back. But it's just a matter of like I'm, you know, well, other people as well are trying and not giving up, and it's just like I said, just do it. If no one else is gonna well, if you aren't gonna do it, who's gonna do it for you? If you wanna lay back and, like don't, for your hand, let me speak for my hand. If you wanna lay back and not get therapy, not do anything, it's just gonna stay that way or get worse. And so it's like at least you're bettering your hand, at least you're bettering your physical capabilities. It might not be you might not get any movement for a year or two and then magically get like a pinky moving. But yeah, it's just like yeah. That's my 2 cents on it, but yeah.
Well, and Kevin, all I was trying to say was that you have to do, you said you're doing stretching and doing what you can. I guess my point was at whatever level you're at, it's important to do what you can while the Botox is in effect, because it doesn't do anything on its own in terms of movement. So,
I was told not to get Botox in my arm. I went and get Botox a year ago for my leg, and I was doing really well. I was at the gym all the time. I was fencing more, and I asked them about my arm for the fingers, and they said, based on the movement that I've got, it's not worth the risk of sacrificing the progress that I was making with the arm at the time. It might not make it easier. It might take away the ability that I have at that time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my doctor is the one who recommended it, and it's been all the I've only gotten Botox in my arm and my fingers, and it's really helped me. But it may be you may be at a different place. I'm not sure.
they have a different system there. It's socialized medicine, so they may have like a cutoff. Well, I don't know.
I was told if I wanted it, I could have it, but the doctor didn't think it would be of benefit. So my problem is I can't keep my wrist straight and move my fingers at the same time. If my wrist is straight, my fingers go to zero. So I
Right.
was hoping it might have provided a solution for that, and they think it would just give me zero all over.
The only solution I know is to work on both. A lot of people, when they have the wrist bent, can move their fingers, but if you straighten out that wrist, they
That's for
tend to
me.
lock up.
So for here with my wrist bent that you can barely see, I've got that kind of temporary movement. If I go up into straight, it goes into a fist, and they'll just lope there.
That's the same thing with me.
Yeah.
That's why I have to get Botox and work on relaxing my hand and stuff. Yeah.
Well, my
Well,
friend Mitch Raymond, who I mentioned early on, who had stroke at 6, became a physical therapist. He's not therapist. He's not an occupational therapist, but he's got the same issues. And basically, his approach to it, and you got to think, since he's a PT and very logical, is to try and work on both the fingers and the wrist, because eventually it took me a while to get my wrist straight and my fingers working. I remember that. It's definitely a stroke thing. I mean, you end up, there's certain stroke patterns. That's one of them. The across your chest is another, and you want to avoid playing into them, and you want to try and fight those stroke patterns, work against them, and Kevin, even if it's simple stretching or even passive movement. I'm not an OT, but my point was, if you're getting Botox, somebody ought to be telling you or directing you in some level as to the kinds of things you can do to make gains, however small they are, and keep them so you can keep building on it. So anyway, yeah, Botox and spasticity in hands are a really tough subject.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt, but I had Botox. So I am 22 right now. I had Botox the last time when I was about 12, 13. And I only had Botox in my legs. So what would happen is they would give me Botox every couple of months and they would cast my legs as they did it. So I had casts on my legs. They would cut the casts off, check my legs, whatever they did. But unless I do physical therapy on my own now, I don't get physical therapy. I stopped getting any physical therapy, any OT, the moment I turned 18, because your class is an adult. And as long as if you don't have any issues, if you want to call them issues, if you don't have any issues that need medical attention, you don't get referred to a physio. And I'm no longer entitled to normal physio or OT since I turned 18 because I'm not classed as a child anymore, which is annoying.
Interesting. All right. Well, maybe I'll let Shelby go and get on with the rest of her day. Anybody got anything else before I thank her and close out?
I'm all good.
Everybody good? Well,
Thank you, Shelby.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
of course.
Thank
I
you.
need to get on these more. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you,
I mean,
Shelby. You're real positive.
Shelby will keep you here for hours.
I have nothing to do today, so
I never know what people have to plan the rest of their day,
No,
so I
you're
try
good.
not to impose on them too much. So
You're good. I was just gonna take lunch to my husband, but yeah. Other than that. Yeah,
Well-
but yeah,
Shyness
it's been a
night.
pleasure.
Well, we want to thank you for coming and sharing your story and some of your insights on, recovery and dealing with, like we all did, got dealt a bad hand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Literally.
like, I look at it as a blessing in disguise. Because it's just, I mean, like, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't had it. I'm not happy I had it, but it's a blessing in disguise, so.
Yeah, I wish we could convey that concept to, more stroke survivors, Um, you gotta play the hand you're dealt. And like you did.
Ralph, it's difficult to actually come to terms with it.
Oh yeah, everybody here went
Yeah.
through it or is still going through it. So
Yeah, it's
we
very
all
difficult.
understand.
As strong as we all think we are, we can't always handle it in what hand we've been dealt.
No, it's certainly a roller coaster ride sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
Okay.
Well, Shelby, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right.
See ya.
Okay.
Bye,
Thanks,
Shelby.
Shelby.
Bye.
Bye.
Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can. Do all you can.